To warn, eject, or do nothing, that is the question, as Ronald Acuna is hit with the first pitch of the bottom of the first inning. We asked you what you thought, and the answer was 47% said eject. That's less than a majority, so it was a split decision. As you'll hear in a second, even the broadcast didn't think the pitch was necessarily intentional.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why Hernandez would have any reason to do that.
So after all of that, Porter issues warnings. And you know that he didn't think the pitch was necessarily intentional because he didn't issue warnings immediately. He only issued warnings after Acuna got upset. So the warnings weren't in response to the pitch, they were in response to the player. Porter saying, "What are you talking about, Snicker?" Because this is where Snicker's coming from.
Well, I think what Brian's saying is, look, if you think a warning needs to be issued, if he's throwing at him on purpose,
throw him out of the game.
Throw him out of the game, exactly.
But again, how do we know that Porter did not think it was intentional as Wegner throws out Snicker for arguing warnings again, really? Because he didn't do anything immediately.
The warning rule, this is a misconception. It doesn't have to be an intentional pitch that precedes a warning. It can be at any time during the game. That's Rule 602C9.
So again, the warnings were in response to Acuna's actions, fearing retaliation later. But here's someone who knows a little bit more than me.
What the heck happened after two pitches to cause an ejection of John Lackey of the Angels?
And then Kinsler is hit, and well, hello, John Lackey, 2 pitches in to his return, is thrown out of the game.
Well, what people forget was this was on a Saturday, and on Friday, Ian Kinsler hit 2 home runs to beat the Angels. He hit a walk-off in the bottom of the ninth, I believe, but Kinsler had hit 2 home runs the night before. And now Kinsler is the leadoff hitter for the Texas Rangers. And, you know, at that time, there's a lot of there was some bad blood between those two teams. And so Kinsler's a leadoff hitter. Now, it's Lackey's first game. He was on the DL in spring training. It was his first game back. So, and if it hadn't been that way, I would have thrown him out after the first pitch. Because the first pitch was at Kinsler's head, and he got out of there, and I didn't do nothing. I just figured, okay, it's his first game back. You know, I probably should have warned him, but I didn't. I said, okay, let me just see. And then the second pitch, Lackey drills Kinsler in the ribs. Now, Lackey's a very good control pitcher. I mean, he can hit the corner of a BB when he wants to, and so I threw him out. So Sosha might come running out of the Angel dugout, and I've known Mike for 35 years in the minor leagues and winter ball and everything. And Mike said to me, he says, "Bobby, this is his first game back." And I said, "Mike, I don't think he's ready." And I think Mike tried to force not to smile. I mean, but I said, "Mike," and you know, Kinsler hit 2 home runs the night before. Now one at his head, one in his rib cage. It's umpire school. He's gone. And I said, "Mike, you're lucky I didn't warn him after the first pitch, because then you would have been gone here too." So that's how that happened. It was basically because Kinsler hit 2 home runs the night before.
Let's talk a little bit about the warning dynamic. It seems to me that 30 years ago, you let both sides even it out, then you warn, or then you move on. Now, How much has baseball kind of said the umpires need to get ahead of these situations almost before they happen?
Well, you know, sometimes the league will is unhappy no matter what you do. You know, you throw, you know, and like I said before, for young umpires, I always try to tell them, if you're not sure, you're better to err on the side of issuing a warning, because that way it looks like you're trying to get ahead of it. Yeah, baseball, you know, sometimes you know, Joe Torre would call, or Peter Woodfork would call the crew chief and say, "Hey, you may have some problem with this or that." And when Stevie Palermo, his job was basically what they called heads up. Like if there was a fight in spring training, Palermo kept track of that and emailed everyone on the crew about the situation. So it was called a heads up. And so when you got that, but on real special ones, a lot of times, either Peter Woodfork or Joe Torre would call crew chief and say, "Hey, you know, let's try to maybe talk to the managers before the game. which I hated doing. But sometimes they wanted you to issue warnings before a game.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't like that either, because that kind of tied the umpire's hands. So, it's a gut feeling that the plate umpire has to do, and it's one that sometimes it works and sometimes it does not.
Remember, if the pitch is not intentional and it's not going to cause problems, don't go ejecting people just because warnings are in place. Warnings don't take a pitcher's ability to throw inside away. Warnings do take the ability to throw at a hitter intentionally away. Remember, the first word of the rule is intentionally. That's what Porter explains twice here, and why there was no ejection in the fourth.